Hi everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to start with a song and it's called If You're Happy and You Know It. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it and you really want to show it. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. Okay, if you're happy and you know it, stomp your feet. If you're happy and you know it, stomp your feet. If you're happy and you know it, and you really want to show it. If you're happy and you know it, stomp your feet. If you're happy and you know it, shout hooray, hooray! If you're happy and you know it, shout hooray, hooray! If you're happy and you know it, and you really want to show it. If you're happy and you know it, shout hooray! If you're happy and you know it, do all three. If you're happy and you know it, do all three. If you're happy and you know it, and you really want to show it. If you're happy and you know it, do all three. Hooray! Very good. That was great. Now, next we're going to read a book. And this is a really funny book. I think you're going to think it's silly and funny, and I hope you really enjoy it. It's called Moosedash. Look at that. That moose has, instead of a mustache, a Moosedash. And this is by Margie Palatini, illustrated by Henry Cole. And I think that this is one of the funniest books you're ever going to read. Let's see what you think. All right. Moose had a problem, a horrible, hairy, prickly problem. It grew right below his nostrils and just above his upper lip. It was a Moosedash. Now, not a few spare hairs or shy little stubble. No mere weak wandering whiskers on the upper lip of this moose. No siree. Moose had a big, bushy, bristly, mighty Moosedash. But a Moosedash that was a burly, surly, mangy mess. And it itched a lot. Sure, he plucked and he tweezed. He even clipped, snipped, and teased. But his combs were still cowards, and his brushes rebelled. His scissors simply surrendered. There's nothing he can do with this Moosedash. It's crazy. Moose was in a frizzy tizzy. The Moosedash was completely crimping his style. Look at that. Isn't that silly? He was a great hoofer. That means dancer. But he could barely bop and hip-hop with a Moosedash going flip-flop. His Moosedash was making him trip all over the place. He couldn't even dance. Oh, no. He was a wonderful chef, but he simply could not flambe his soufflé with all of those whiskers in his way. And he was a daring skier, but how could he downhill race with the mighty Moosedash blowing in his face? Moose had to do something, and soon. But what? After days and days of much serious thought, Moose got an idea. He crossed some hair here, he crossed some hair there, and he tied his Moosedash around his neck. A moose scarf seemed to be the ideal answer to his problem. It was so simple, so easy, so perfectly perfect. I have a scarf. And hopefully it's not a moose scarf. But then his Moosedash got knotted and mangled and horribly tangled, and those hundreds of hairs still prickled and tickled. Worse, Moose could barely take a breath with all that Moosedash wrapped around his neck. So Moose untied, unwrapped, unknotted, and gulped in some fresh air. Poor Moose. He got another idea. He parted some hair this way, he parted some hair that way, and he heaped all that Moosedash on top of his head. Moustachioed antlers seemed to be the ideal answer to his problem. It was so simple, so easy, so perfectly perfect, until a squadron of squirrels and one very nosy gopher moved right in. Moose Motel. They huddled and hoarded, furrowed and burrowed out. Oh no, that is not what he wanted. Needless to say, it became quite crowded up there on Moose's head, and heavy and messy. And very, very noisy. The squirrely chitting and chatting, squeals and squawks woke Moose every morning before the crack of dawn, and that gopher was giving the moose one hairy headache. Moose needed his sleep, he needed his rest, he needed his privacy. Mustachioed antlers, nuts, said Moose. So he unparted and unpiled and untwisted and untwined and said, adios to the hairy horns. And adios in Spanish means bye-bye. He did not want those guests anymore. Look at them all up there. Eh? So silly. Oh, the pages are sticking together. But now what? What? The miserable moose took hold of a hunk of hair and wrestled it, then roped it. He tethered and tied and tamed. A moose tail. Now that was so simple, that was so easy, that was so not perfectly perfect. Talk about a dizzy do. Moose didn't know if he was coming or going, backward, forward, this way, that. He didn't know which end was which. Moose had to bail on the tail. Oh well. And so he thought and thought and thought some more, but no other idea was a worthy winner. Braids were a bother. A Moosedash sweater? Too sweltering. That means too hot. Poor Moose. His problem was truly terrible, unbearable, just downright sad. He felt so alone. He didn't know what else to do. Then, call it fate, call it destiny. It was probably dumb luck. But one day Moose tripped on his Moosedash and just had no time to duck. Oof! Pardon me, they both said as they bumped. Then they blinked and they stared and their hearts went thump, thump. She was a moose with a bouffant, so bodacious, outrageous. Well, it was just plain old big. Big hair after hair piled higher than high, a skyscraping dew of glorious curls, a tower of swirling twists and twirls. She was simply splendid, stupendous, absolutely superb. Of course, Moose had to ask how she did what she did to get such a do. Ms. Moose winked and then whispered, just a little glue. So they each plunged a hoof into a fat pot of white gooey goop, and carefully, oh so carefully, they glopped and they plopped, they pasted and they pressed, they coaxed and they curled every truly unruly wayward whisker. Around and around they twisted and twirled those horrible hairs until Moose's once mangy mass was now a wondrous, winding wave of marvelous moustache. Moose gazed in the mirror and smiled a broad, moosey smile. He was so happy, so glad, just giddy with glee. He looked dashing and handsome. Moose gushed, "Is that really me?" With not a care for one hair, the moose pair boogied and bopped. They skied downhill, even uphill, and their cooking was hot, hot, hot. So, of course, it wasn't long after that Moose and his Moosedash and his beautiful bride foxtrotted and tangoed and waltzed down the aisle. Good hair days, bad hair days. They vowed to love and to cherish, and with hearts heaped with love and pots filled with goop, they both sighed, I do, glue, and promised never to part. Isn't that cute? They got married. The end. It was so simple, so easy, so perfectly perfect. I hope you enjoyed our song, and I hope you enjoyed our book. I hope you're doing well. I miss you all, and I hope you'll come back and watch some more videos soon. Miss you. Bye-bye.